Once Oralkhan Bokei is mentioned, a famous Kazakh writer, the man who has praised and eulogized Great Altai. The first association that comes to my mind is a highlighted deer that stands on the top of the mountain and proudly watches the sun. Invincible, cold-headed, lifting spirits of his fellow Kazakhs, admired and respected in nation. There is not a single Kazakh who hasn't read the works of Oralkhan Bokei. And I have read his works, Snow Maiden, The Bridge of Satin, The Night Howl of the Wolf, with great pleasure. I have read his wonderful story, The Deer, in the 11th grade. It was then that I saw this beautiful animal for the first time, not in the picture, not at the zoo, but live. Its image was described so vividly that I have even shed some tears. I realized then there are strong spirits both among people and animals, as well as weaklings. Makbal Musa is a poet, member of the Union of Writers and Journalists of Kazakhstan. She is the winner of Jansugurov and Makatayev Republican contest. Apart from this, she won the first prize of the Republican Altyn Tolbilgi contest, organized by the Foundation of Kazakhstan's first president. Also, Makbal is a winner of 100 New Faces of Kazakhstan project. I had a neighbor, a keen hunter. Once, he had brought home a shot roe deer. Our Zhengie immediately cooked a delicious kuridak for the household. They invited me too, but the image of a live roe deer stood before my eyes, and I refused to eat. Perhaps this was one of the biggest disappointments of my childhood. Later, I even wrote poems about this. So why do you think we decided to dedicate this episode to the deer written by Oralkhan Bokei? Because, for one, it is one of the strongest works that has become a discovery for many, being kind of a beacon in our lives. Secondly, a deer is a symbol of a beautiful and strong creature. The animal is associated with a genuine, strong person. There is another reason why I chose this particular story for analysis. The deer is written in poetic style. It is full of vivid images, symbolism, and encourages to love nature, appreciate the beauty of one's homeland, gives an opportunity to look at yourself and the surroundings differently. One of the most prominent representatives of Kazakh literature of the 20th century, Oralkhan Bokei, was born on September 28, 1943, in the village of Chingistau, Katon-Karagay district of the East Kazakhstan region. In 1968, he moved to Almaty. Oralkhan Bokei was a writer and a playwright whose works are completely unlike anyone else's. They are truly unique. In 1976, Bokei won the Lenin Komsomol Prize, and 2 years later was awarded with the Ostrovsky Soviet Literary Prize. And there were more awards. In 1986, he became the laureate of the State Prize of Kazakhstan for his collection of short stories. In Our Places, the winners are long. His books were actively translated into languages of the USSR states and foreign countries: German, Slavic, Bulgarian, English, Hungarian, Arabic, Chinese, and others. The life of the great writer ended abruptly. His heart stopped while he was participating in an international conference in India in 1993. It was a huge shock for his fans and admirers. So, what is the secret to an enormous and extraordinary talent of the writer? Probably, for starters, it has to do with his motherland and the places where he was born and raised. It was there that he absorbed the beauty of the nature, realized his unity with it, learned to see the beauty of every single thing that surrounded him. It is not a coincidence that in his works he used to glorify the Altai. Oralkhan Bokei is very much similar to the nature of his motherland. He was as tall and unapproachable as the peaks of the Altai mountains. He was as swift and fast as roe deer of those places. Was as turbulent and powerful as the flood in mountain rivers. He is a huge phenomenon in Kazakh literature, one of the pen batirs of modern literature. He is the star of the East ascended in the sky. Even during his school years, Oralkhan Bokei has said repeatedly that once he will definitely become a journalist and a writer. At his graduation party, he said the following: "Kokshetau is beautiful and great. Akins and writers who were born and raised here are no less great." Altai is beautiful, majestic, and I promise that in my works, I will always tell people about its greatness, nature, and abundance. That is why I want to become a writer. If a person has a big dream, then it will certainly come true. And I will achieve my dream. Time has shown his dreams came true. He accomplished what he was longing for. He became a writer, glorified his Altai, making it a pinnacle of his literary works. The names Orelhan and Altai are written on the pages of the history of Kazakh prose forever.
Қазақ әдебиетінде қатар астасып қала берді.
Orelhan Bokei is the most highly skilled and well-known Kazakh writer of the 21st century. In his short life, he has managed to raise himself, his name, his literature, and his people to a great height. The works of Orelhan Bokei are distinguished by their poetic style. This is what is so unique about him. His works are literally filled with poetry. The Deer story is a great example of a stylistic individuality. It is unique and inimitable. A relatively short story is filled with drama, tension, and everything that happens in it contains a great deal of heat and is described passionately and artistically. The life of these miserable animals was conveyed by the author with an extreme accuracy, as if he was describing a man's fate and his deep inner world. Let's take a closer look at the story. This restless roar once was so powerful that it could shock the whole universe, but today it has noticeably weakened. Once this deer's roar was echoing in the mountains, reverberating from summit to summit, intensified and multiplied, scattered for many, many miles ahead. This deer's roar is an echo of the past. It is a memory of the old, happy, and careless days. It possesses this strong inner struggle in it. The animal realizes that the force leaves him, and with it, all the best is irrevocably gone. Youth and bright days. It is a difficult thought to put up with, and his roar is full of bitterness and regret. The sun shines brightly, bathing the mountain summit in its rays, cheering up an old deer. He is one with the nature. It understands, remembers, and encourages him. We are one. We are created by one sun. We are both equally warmed by its rays. The deer has to lead his herd down to a new pasture, but the young deer, a darling rival, who sensed the leader's passing strength, confronts him. The proud old deer, having gathered all his willpower, is trying to fight back. Young deer is strong, but is his spirit equally strong? Head to head, one-on-one, the deer knows true heroism is born in a fierce battle like this one. And such fights are happening not only in the animal world. A man who arrogantly considers himself as the ruler of the universe also often resolves his disputes in such fights. But these are completely different fights, not like those of wild and horned artiodactyls. They are less honest and noble, and happen more than once or twice a year, without a legitimate reason, and the result is usually bloody. The old deer understood this, and the fact that the two-legged creature are completely different. They put fences around their lands, hunt them with unbelievable aggression and cruelty. But why, if any fight is supposed to be fair? How accurately and skillfully the author has described humans' cruelty and meanness. Even the deer understands their origin, sees that the two-legged creatures are not noble and honest, although they are endowed with reason and power. In his youth, the deer himself was convinced of this. More than once, he was captured by humans, and every time they would saw his horns off. Deer's whole life has flashed in his radiant and beautiful eyes, every single thing that has happened to him from birth until today. And it was always a man who was his master, deciding his fate, bringing bitterness and resentment into his life. Here, he stands in captivity of insatiable hunters, so young and strong, but completely helpless, devoid of his juicy, milky horns. He remembers that excruciating pain that overcame him once his horns were sawn off. There was a sensation of millions of ants sinking their teeth into his head, tearing his mind to shreds. And his pearl teeth ached as if they had also been pulled out. And it was always the human who made him realize all these things. It is overwhelming, isn't it? This is the sad truth of life, which we have to realize sooner or later. Just imagine how many hundreds of thousands of such black-eyed and beautiful animals, creatures of nature, suffer and die because of men. And after all, not only our protagonist is subjected to all of these 33 misfortunes. He has almost triumphed in that fight with a young and daring deer, bending his strong horns to the ground. His strength was exhausted, his legs were shaking, and the enemy took advantage of this, hitting him and knocking him down. He knocked him down and immediately took away the whole herd. The old deer was lying on the ground for some time, recovering from the duel. What pain was stronger? The pain of a wounded body or the pain of being betrayed by the herd, which he carefully guided through the steppes and mountains for decades, protecting them from adversities. Gathering his last strength, the deer rose from the ground and wandered to the top. Courage, probably? He lost his herd, but he did not lose his fortitude. And this is how the story continues.
Қайсарлықтың белгісі осындай болса керек. Одан әрі әңгіме бұлай өрбиді.
This roar was heard in the mountains for a very long time, repeating, echoing. His whole life, all the hardships and happy moments were heard in this lingering sound. Suddenly, a loud shot rang out, and a bullet pierced right between the deer's high antlers. He fell down and did not get up anymore. The one who fought in a duel, the one who did not lose his spirit after betrayal, the one who has found the strength to live on, now was lying lifeless on the ground. Bullets came from two sides, but no one approached the dead deer. It is unknown what kind of hunters they were. The deer remained there under a tall pine forever. The question that is asked by the readers most often is the following. What is the mystery behind the deer's death? Who are those two hunters who shot him? And why didn't anyone come out of the forest to collect deer's carcass? What did the author want to tell? Was it possible for the deer to avoid his death? In my opinion, the writer wanted his readers to finish the story themselves. Strength of a spirit is either there or not. If it is there, no one can break the spirit. Likewise, no one is able to destroy art or creativity, just exactly like the works of Orhan Bokei. Just as they killed Kulagir, they killed a deer. But unfortunately, people don't realize this. Sooner or later, there will always be someone who shoots from around the corner. Apparently, the author wanted to express this thought, and that is why he didn't want to reveal who the killers were, left it as a mystery. If you remember, in the final part of Sholokov's The Quiet Dawn book, the finale is quite vague. Grigory Melikov travels along the steppe, and it is unknown where and why. The 4-volume novel was left without an epilogue. Sokolov did this on purpose, leaving his readers to reflect. Orhan seems to have done the same. He described the death of the deer, but he himself didn't fully believe that it has happened. Some say a free and wild deer could not perish so easily. The others say free and wild deer live only in heaven.